Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is 7 games to check out if you like Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride is a fantastic game. From Alan Moon and Days of Wonder, the game has sold millions and millions of copies worldwide in dozens of variations of that game. The most recent of which is on my table, Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West, a legacy version of Ticket to Ride. The game is incredibly popular, and the core game concepts are incredibly simple. All you do every single turn is you either gather new tickets representing destinations on the board that you need to connect with your trains, or you take train cards so you can go ahead and cash those in to be able to lay your trains on the boards, connecting various routes to eventually be able to achieve those tickets and also to get points as you go, or alternatively, you go ahead and actually take a turn placing those trains down. There are 3 actions you take. It's a very simple, very easy to understand and learn game. Part of why it has been so incredibly popular is because it manages to hit both those markets, that mass market audience who are, used to games like Monopoly, used to games like Risk, and are looking for something that might be a little bit different, but has a lot going on for it, while also hitting the strategy game crowd in the sense that it's low luck, and there is luck, make no mistake, but it's lower luck, and there's more determination, more deterministic aspects of the game as you try to figure out the optimal way to gather as many points as possible. I mean, the game's incredibly popular. It has been in the World Series of Board Gaming as one of the games that determines, how good you are at board games as a general, broader category for whatever weight you put into that. So, you played Ticket to Ride, you're here on the internet, you clicked on this video, or you're just a subscriber to the channel, in which case, thanks so much for being here, and you want to see what else is out there. To that end, I have 7 game recommendations for you. 7 game, and there's a whole bunch out there, but these are 7 games ranked in rough order of how accessible I think they are, all the way up from the most basic to the most strategic as you go through them. I've done another video on 7 games to check out if you like Catan. If you want to check out that video, you can check out that as well. I'll link to that in the comments down below or in the description down below. But as far as 7 games to check out if you like Ticket to Ride, the first one I'm going to start with is On Tour. Now, I don't have all the games with me on the table over here, but I do have On Tour as a basic game that's going to give you that route building that you find in Ticket to Ride. Each of the games I recommend is going to have some aspect as to why I think it's a good next step. And On Tour is going to be a roll and write game, which is a very accessible format of games in which you're just basically rolling some dice and then you're writing on a board. With a dry erase marker, you're going to be writing on this map as you explore the world, trying to connect various locations to each other. Now, you don't have tickets and destinations the way you do in Ticket to Ride, but you have the general idea. You're trying to assign these numbers in a pathway, in an order, so you can go in an ascending order as you move around the map. And so you place things down, hoping to be able to connect them properly, trying to build around the perfect map, while trying to be accommodating for the fact that you won't always get perfection, so you need ways to create shortcuts between locations, so you can work with not just what you want to get, but what that actually is rolled on the table. It is fast, it's easy to play, it's got a 2-page rulebook, like Ticket to Ride. If you're looking for it's 2 pages, 4 sheets front and back and all that. Very easy to learn, dive into. On Tour is an excellent game that will give you a lot of the same route building feeling that you get from Ticket to Ride. Now, Thurn and Taxis is another step up over here. Thurn and Taxis is an out-of-print game. It's not an easy one to find, but if you do, it's one that will definitely give you that same route-building vibes that Ticket to Ride does, but I think it does so with a lot more determinism going on. There's still luck in the game. There are still cards that represent destinations, and there's still a degree of randomness of what you'll actually end up drawing and how well it fits into your plans. But effectively, you're trying to gather sets of cards and then play them to be able to put your little post boxes down in various locations on the board, trying to be able to get permanent placement on the board as you either go for large degrees of placement in a single area, single color areas, or trying to place them in different color areas as you slowly spread across the map. You're going through an escalating series of trying to build better and longer routes, completely fill different areas, get as many points as possible. Thurn and Taxis is a very deterministic game that's going to give you the same vibes and feel as Ticket to Ride, with a bit more rules overhead while not having that much more rules overhead, and definitely giving you that same sense of, trying to gather cards that aren't necessarily trains, rather the locations. Trying to connect them the way you try to connect the locations in Ticket to Ride, but in a very different way that it's played out in Thurn and Taxis. It's an excellent game, and it has less blocking. If you don't like the potential aspect in Ticket to Ride where you can be blocked by somebody else cutting off a route, Thurn and Taxis doesn't have that. You never get blocked out. Rather, people who do things first will often get more points. So there's still competition. You're still going head to head. You're still trying to get things done better and faster than other players, but you won't have all your plans come crashing down around you as somebody else cuts off that last route between 2 locations that you're not able to do. The third one over here is going to be Ticket to Ride Legacy. Now, I just finished playing through Ticket to Ride Legacy, and it's fantastic. If you're looking for Ticket to Ride and then some, there are so many variations of Ticket to Ride I can recommend. Games that give you a bit more rules overhead than basic Ticket to Ride, while still giving you the same feeling or sense. They have the entire small box line, they have big box lines, they have expansions, they have a ton of content for Ticket to Ride. But the one I'd recommend most if I'm branching away from Ticket to Ride in general is going to be Ticket to Ride Legacy Legends of the West. Now, a Legacy game, if you haven't played it, basically means that this game is one and done. Or more specifically, 10 and done, 12 and done. It's a 12 and done sort of game, in the sense that you play through 12 games of this, constantly marking the board and adding to the board. So you're going to be placing stickers on the board. You're going to be permanently altering things in the game. So across this 12-game series, you are permanently affecting how the game plays. There are catch-up mechanics in place so that one player who manages to steamroll the first game doesn't simply win the entire experience. You're going to be adding up your score across these 12 games in a variety of different things to try to determine your final score as you constantly explore the map, as you add stickers, locations, and permanently alter the very state of the board that you are playing on. And then when you're done, you have an actually playable game at the end of it, and I don't say that lightly. Legacy games as a genre frequently promise the idea that you have one more game left at the end of it, or not one more game, you have infinite games. You finish your game, now play on your permanent, unique copy of the game forever. More often than not, I should say, always often than not, at least for me, I have felt no desire to continue playing a Legacy game when done. That is not true for Ticket to Ride Legends of the West. I think this is a fun game to play, specifically if you're playing Ticket to Ride with the people you play this game with. This is a fun way to dive back into it and to enjoy and play through Ticket to Ride, even on the map that you are done with. Even on your own custom version of the board that is slightly changed, I think this actually will give you ongoing gameplay. But that sense of legacy is something that will take your base concept of Ticket to Ride and will just give you so much more board gaming experience and just the fun of trying to have something, not trying to, but of having something iterate and change as you go through it. You're going to finish a game, you're going to unlock something new, and you're going to want to play the next game right after. You unlocked a new mechanic, a new system, something else in the game, and so the game will build upon itself, slowly but surely, adding more and more to the experience that you are having. Ticket to Ride Legends of the West is not only an excellent version of Ticket to Ride, it's also one of the better Legacy games that I've played. At number 4, we have Through the Desert. Through the Desert from Reina Knizia, they actually just currently are in their newest reprinting of the game. In fact, the company behind On Tour over here, Allplay, they just had a Kickstarter. They actively, depending on when you watch the video, they had a Kickstarter for Through the Desert, which is the newest printing of Reina Knizia's title that's going to have you building routes of camels so you try to block off locations on the board. Now, this concept of network building, of route building, of locking off areas on the board, it's not new to Reina Knizia. He has a bunch of games that do this, but to me, I think Through the Desert is still one of the best ones in his collection, in his designs, that do this concept. You're going to be placing down camels on the board, slowly but surely connecting these routes, and so you have that sense of route building that you do in games like Ticket to Ride, in games like Thurn and Taxis or On Tour. You'll have that sense of route building, but it's much more about the area control than it is about the route building. So that sense of trying to build things on the map and create locations and change, it kind of has the same familiarity while being a very different system. If you like Ticket to Ride, and you want to be introduced a bit more to area control while feeling like you're still within a similar realm, Through the Desert is going to be an excellent choice. It has had 7 different, not 7 specifically, but has had a lot of different printings over the years from a lot of different companies. Every time it's ever gone out of print, it has been brought back in print because it is a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. I highly recommend checking out Through the Desert, trying to find it, get a copy, add it to your collection, to give it a shot. It is rules light while being strategy heavy, exactly like many of these games will be. Number 5 is going to be On the Underground, with a caveat that I'll give you another recommendation too. On the Underground is an older game that existed for quite some time that was recently brought back into print by... I'm blanking on the name of the company, but it recently was brought back into print. They had a bunch of Kickstarters, they've had some expansion maps, all that, but On the Underground is going to give you the sense of the passengers building that you have in Ticket to Ride, but in this game it's far more about building routes and trying to move passengers along those routes as you move them on the underground to their destination. It's not about connecting New York to San Francisco, it's about connecting 2 stops and ensuring that the passengers are most motivated to use your lines so that you can score points for them. So it has that sense of route building, that sense of connecting locations, but it's much more about the traveling of the passengers than anything else. I'm going to have an adjacent game suggestion here as well, which is going to be one of the heaviest games, the heaviest game on this list, which is going to be Bus. Bus from Capstone Games and from Splotter, also currently out of print, is another game that's going to have that same vein as On the Underground. That same vein is trying to build routes and then focus on how passengers move along those routes to get to their destinations. I think Bus is a lot It's not heavier in the rule set, but it is heavier in the amount of strategy behind it, so I would caution you to, go through this list bit by bit before you add something like Bust to your collection, especially since it's out of print and is currently very expensive. But I think On the Underground is a little rules lighter, a little bit more forgiving, and gives you that same concept. So if you like Ticket to Ride, if you like building routes, but you feel like you want an extra element layer on top of it, On the Underground will very much give you that because you want those connections, but then you have to figure out how to actually motivate the passengers to get to their destination through your lines as opposed to the other players' lines. There's a bunch of versions of the game out. You can get the original version on eBay fairly cheaply, and it's still a good game, or you can get the new reprintings of the game as well, and they have a bunch of maps and expansions and all that for that, but that's going to be On the Underground, as well as Bust on the side. My number 6 recommendation is going to be Rajes of the Ganges. Rajes of the Ganges over here. This one is... It's an interesting choice because there's lots of elements of the game that don't fit nicely into the Ticket to Ride aspect, but there is going to be a degree of route building going on in the game while throwing in a bunch of other elements. So this one's really going to expand the mechanics you have a taste of as you go through this one. But I think it's not that complicated on the rules. It's going to be dice placement. You're going to be rolling dice and then using those dice to go to various locations while also managing how you move up I want to say the Ganga River, if I'm not mistaken. But you're also going to be trying to navigate your own personal board and create certain connections and routes on there. That's where you're going to have an element of Ticket to Ride mixed into it, while still dealing with a lot of other aspects of the game that are going to give you a phenomenal Euro puzzle that is accessible in the rule set, gives you enough strategy that you're definitely leaning into a bunch of other concepts. I think this one, while not necessarily the heaviest game on this list, especially not if you're including Bus, this is definitely one that's going to give you a lot more things going on. I think all the other games on this video today really focus much more heavily on the route building. Through the Desert focuses a little bit more on the area control. Ticket to Ride Legends of the West is going to throw a bunch of mechanics at you in the game, so you can have push your luck, you're going to have rolling dice and stock taking and a whole bunch of other things going on in the game as you go through it. I don't want to get too much into things because of, various potential spoilers in the game, but you're going to have a lot of things going on in Legends of the West that are really going to introduce new mechanics, but I think Rajes of the Ganges is going to give you a firm foundation in other mechanics outside of route building, while still giving you that sense of route building you found in Ticket to Ride. And then lastly on this list is going to be Watergate, which might seem like an interesting choice over here, but it definitely has that sense of trying to cut off others in this two-player, head-to-head political game. This is politically themed, based around Watergate, Nixon, and the press and all that stuff, and this is also coming from Capstone Games, who are involved in Bus, but Watergate is going to give you a two-player, head-to-head tug of war as you try to vie for various tokens in order to be able to put things down onto a grid and connect various points of evidence or get in the way. Effectively, as the press, you're trying to connect Nixon to various other people in the game to be able to tie in together two pieces of information of people who are reporting on them. And as Nixon, you're trying to cut off those points, which means to a certain extent, this has an aspect of route building and of that blocking and trying to achieve goals and connections that you'll have in Ticket to Ride. The main player board you're operating on, you're going to have a tug of war as far as who gets to place what, but the main player board that you actually get to place things down on is going to give you a bit of a challenge as far as how you connect different things, since you'll have that sense of trying to put this and put this and put that, and then having Nixon cut you off and trying to get in the way. Depending if you're playing as Nixon or as the press, you'll have different goals, but the goals are going to be still operating on this shared board as you try to engage the degree of route building and of blocking route building. If you are someone that kind of likes that competitive aspect of Ticket to Ride, where you place down a train in a way that blocks somebody else, but it often feels out of place in that game. It feels like it's coming across almost as cutthroat and mean in a game that should be about your own goals and destinations. Well, then Watergate will let you do that as part of the game system. That is the game. It is head-to-head. It is two players going at it to the, not necessarily death so much as inevitable arrest, but the game is rules light and incredibly strategy heavy as you go through it. Watergate is a fantastic game to check out, and one that might be up your alley if you've enjoyed Ticket to Ride. And that's my recommendation list, 7 different games that are all going to give you some vibes of slowly but surely adding more and more to your gaming catalog, to the mechanics you have a touch in, to the themes you'll be able to play. There's a lot going on here, but if you've liked Ticket to Ride, these are 7 games I definitely recommend you check out. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.